I would like to share with you an experience that my wife and I had when we first moved to California as Shluchim, emissaries of the Lubavitcher Rebbe. We got a call one morning. It must have been 7:30 in the morning, unusual time to get a call. And this individual who identified himself as John says, "Is this the rabbi?" I said, "It is." "Rabbi, I need to talk to you as soon as possible." It seemed to be an urgent matter. So at 9 a.m., John came over to the home and he told me the following story. He said, many decades ago, I was a teenager, typical kid, a little rebellious, growing up here in Southern California. And although I came from a very secular background, my parents were concerned because I began reading up on various religions outside of Judaism. And summer was approaching. They were looking for a nice, wholesome Jewish environment to send me for the 2 months of the summer. And they came across somehow the Gan Israel overnight camp in Montreal, Canada. And they shipped me off. I think he was about 14 years old. He had a wonderful experience. And he learned about what it means to be a Jew. He met other Jewish children. During the summer, he came from camp to Brooklyn, New York, to 770 Eastern Parkway, the Chabad World headquarters, where the Lubavitcher Rebbe was holding a public gathering known as a Farbrengen on the day of Chaf Av, the 20th of Av, which is the Rebbe's father's yahrzeit. And he was an older camper, so he came in with the older bunks, and he was told that the Rebbe would be coming in, and he wanted to meet him. So he ran to the aisle, and as the Rebbe passed him, John, this 14-year-old boy, extended his arm, and the Rebbe shook it with a big smile and continued on. As soon as that happened, children, adults, his counselor said, "John, you shouldn't have done that. We don't shake the Rebbe's hand. The Rebbe's a holy man." And he said, "I'm sorry, I had no idea." But they explained to him that it was a great merit that it had happened, although he shouldn't have done it. He apologized. He obviously didn't know better, but he felt a sense of gratitude that the Rebbe gave him a handshake and smiled so warmly to him, gave him that special moment. So before he left back to camp, he left some money with his host in Crown Heights, and he said, "Do me a favor, if you could go out and buy a bottle of wine or champagne and give it to the Rebbe on my behalf." And he left the money. He says he doesn't remember if he left a note with it. In any case, he went back to camp. Eventually the summer was over, and now John comes back to California, Orange County. And after telling his parents about his experience, his mom says, "John, I have something for you." And he hands him a letter. It was from 770 Eastern Parkway. He opened the letter, but he couldn't read it. It was in a language that he didn't understand. So he called up the Hebrew Academy, and he got in touch with one of the rabbis who translated the letter for him. And in the letter, the Rebbe expressed his deep gratitude and appreciation for his heartfelt gift, and blessed him that he should go on to grow as a Jew and whatever else the Rebbe added in his letter. John was very taken by this, because even if he signed his name, he certainly did not leave an address. How did the Rebbe know who I am? How did he know my address? So he says, "Rabbi, last night," he tells me, "I was watching the Chabad telethon." You know, Chabad of California puts on an annual telethon, and I saw Rabbi Kunin with the picture of the Rebbe. And I was reminded of this experience that I had had several decades earlier. And I said to myself, what have I done to live as a Jew? The Rebbe gave me so much attention, and then followed that up with a letter. I started feeling very guilty. So I went online, and I found that there's a local Chabad. I had literally just moved there maybe a couple of weeks earlier. And he said, "I want to get involved." And John got very involved with our Chabad. He would come to all of the classes, to the prayer services, holiday events, and so forth. And then after about 2 years, he stopped coming. I tried reaching him. I couldn't get through to John. I was concerned. I tried visiting him in his home. No answer. Then all of a sudden, John calls me up after being absent for 6 months, and he tells me the following. He says, the Rebbe sent me back to you. I said, first of all, John, how are you feeling? He says, I wasn't feeling very well, and that's why I have been missing the last 6 months. And then I asked him, what do you mean the Rebbe sent me back to you? And he said the following. He says, as you know, I work for a software company. Yesterday I got a call, and it was the client on the phone was having some serious issues with the software that we had sold him. And I spent quite a bit of time with him, maybe an hour. And during the course of the conversation, I asked him, by the way, where are you calling from? He said, from New York. He says, New York is a big city. Where in New York? He said, Brooklyn. We're in Brooklyn, Crown Heights. And he said, hey, I spent some time in Crown Heights many years ago, and I began to tell this fellow the entire story of the experience I had at 770 Eastern Parkway, right there in the Crown Heights section of Brooklyn, and when I spent time at the Rebbe's Farbrengen, his public gathering. This fellow on the phone says, you won't believe it. I am sitting in an office just across the street from 770, and I work for an organization called Tzivos Hashem. This is a Chabad-run children's organization. Tzivos Hashem means the army of Hashem, where children do good deeds, and they spread the light of Torah and mitzvahs to win the battle against the exile and bring about the coming of Mashiach. He says, I'm sitting at an office overlooking 770 as we speak. And then he says, John, I'm sure you're involved with your local Chabad. He said, I was. He says, you were? What about now? He said, I haven't been feeling well. And the rabbi on the other end of the phone asks him, what is your rabbi's name? He said, Rabbi Paltiel. He said, he's a cousin of mine. Please give him a call and get back involved, because the Rebbe sent you back to his home, his Chabad house locally in Orange County, California, for a second time. And John says, I'm back, and he got back involved, and the rest, as they say, was history. This is an incredible story that happened just at the outset of our Shlichus. My wife and I had moved to California. And there are a few takeaways and very powerful messages and lessons that I learned from this experience. Number one, it taught me about the Rebbe's love and deep care and concern for every individual. Individuals that he never met, individuals that don't even know about the Rebbe. It taught us the great achrayus, the great responsibility that we have, being that the Rebbe cares for every individual. He will be sending us as a father figure, his children. And we have to be prepared. And we have to know how to treat them properly with respect and guide them on their path to growing as children of Hashem, as Jews. And perhaps most importantly, it taught me how the Rebbe's guiding our every step and sending us his blessings throughout our journey here in Laguna Niguel, California, here in Orange County. My friends, this story that I just shared, this incredible story, happened after the Rebbe's physical passing. And although we do not see the Rebbe physically or hear his voice, it's quite clear that the Rebbe's influence, his guidance, and impact is here, and perhaps even more so than before his physical passing. Look around you. Look around the world. Virtually in every corner of the world, the Rebbe's influence and impact can be felt, and the Rebbe sends his brachas, his blessings, and there are so many stories, miracle stories, that happen every week, perhaps every day, of individuals who wrote a letter and sent it to the Ohel, the Rebbe's holy resting place, and the Rebbe finds a way to answer their dilemmas, to bless them for good luck or to guide them in whatever questions and dilemmas that they may have. Why is this? Because the Rebbe, the Hebrew word Rebbe, is comprised of 3 Hebrew letters, Reish, Beis, Yud, which is an acronym for Reish B'nai Yisrael, the head of the Jewish people. Just as our head, our minds, is aware of what's happening in our entire body, our little pinky toe can have a little itch, and our mind, our head, is aware of it. If something is bothering us, wherever it may be throughout our body, the head gets the signal and is aware of it and works towards remedying the situation. The Rebbe, as the head of the Jewish people, is aware of everything that happens throughout the body of the Jewish people and sends his guidance and sends his love and sends his blessings as a caring father. My friends, this Wednesday night and Thursday is Gimel Tammuz, the 3rd day of the Hebrew month of Tammuz, where the world lost the Rebbe's physical presence. And as I mentioned a moment ago, it's only the Rebbe's physical presence because the Rebbe's spirit and the Rebbe's influence is very much alive and with us. Because the life of a righteous individual, of a tzaddik, particularly the leader of a generation, is not about his physical existence here on earth. And although we miss the Rebbe's physical presence terribly, the life of a leader and the life of a tzaddik is about that spiritual energy and that guidance and the blessings that he continues to bestow upon us all. And therefore, my friends, I have a special request. This Wednesday night and Thursday, the anniversary of Gimel Tammuz, I ask of you, my dear friends, to do something special. Do a little bit more as a Jew than you're ordinarily accustomed to doing. Learn a little Torah. Give some charity. Put on tefillin for the men. Reach out to a friend who could use a little boost, a little encouragement. The Rebbe took upon himself this monumental task, this unbelievable challenge, to bring Mashiach, as we say in Hebrew, b'poyel mamish, physically down here on earth. To put an end to this galut, this exile in which we find ourselves, for which we've been waiting for almost 2,000 years to come to an end, to bring about the rebuilding of the 3rd Holy Temple in Jerusalem, to bring about a world that's kinder, that's more godly, where the truth of the fact that God runs every detail in our world will be clear and plain to see, which is all that what Mashiach represents, to bring an end to the suffering, to illness, to hatred. And the Rebbe spent his entire life with this single goal, to bring about a world of Mashiach. How? By increasing the light of goodness and kindness, the light of the mitzvah, of the good deed. And with this aim, the Rebbe dispatched his shluchim, his emissaries that serve as the Rebbe's outstretched arms to literally every corner of the world. Let us show the Rebbe on the day of Gimel Tammuz that we really care, that we will partner with him in bringing about this reality, the reality of the coming of Mashiach, by reaching out to somebody else with kindness and with love, by doing a mitzvah. I gave a few examples before, and I'm going to be sending an email, and please look at our website and our Facebook page, where we're going to provide on Wednesday night and throughout the day on Thursday various choices for learning so that we can be inspired and grow as Jews, and send the Rebbe this gift and say, Rebbe, we hear our calling, your calling of our generation, the last generation of galut, of exile, and the first generation of redemption. We are here with you to make it happen, to do whatever we can in our power to bring more godliness and goodness to the world and to rid ourselves of Galut, of this exile. You know, the Rebbe, as a great leader, didn't just create followers, but most importantly, he created leaders. By empowering each and every one of us to recognize the God-given gift and the impact and the influence that each one of us could have. You know, it's very easy for us to sit back and say, what difference could little me make? Look at his shluchim. Look at the army that the Rebbe created. These are made up of simple young men and young women. I was 23 years old. My wife was 20 years old when we moved out to California, 21 years old. What kind of training did we have to open up shop, so to speak, and start a Chabad house? And the answer is we were empowered by our Rebbe, where the Rebbe gave us the confidence and says, the fact that God has sent you to this place at this time means that you have what it takes to have an impact and to influence every single person that you meet. And I am sharing this message with you because we're all in it together. We are all Hasidim of the Rebbe because we were all impacted by the Rebbe's light and by the Rebbe's influence. And therefore, let us become leaders as the Rebbe empowered us to do. And let us each bring light of goodness in our 4 cubits, so to speak, in our environment, amongst our family members, amongst our co-workers, people in our social circles, or whoever we could possibly influence. And finally, we have the opportunity today, particularly on the day of Gimel Tammuz, Wednesday night and Thursday, to connect to the Rebbe in a very profound way. To write a pan, a letter to the Rebbe to be sent to the Rebbe's holy resting place. And to study the Rebbe's Torah, which means the Rebbe's teachings, whether it's the Sichot, the Rebbe's talks, or the Rebbe's letters, and I'm going to be attaching those as well to the email. Please look out for that. May our efforts be a source of nachas to our Rebbe, and may we be reunited with our Rebbe very soon with the imminent coming of Mashiach. Amen.